Welcome again. Thank you everyone for joining us today on a lovely Friday Eve. Topic for today is humanizing the workplace, boosting employee engagement through the power of connection. And we'll just kick things off with a quick intro. I'll start with myself. Hello, everyone. I'm Rebecca, your host for today. I'm also the community manager here at Bucketlist Rewards, and I'm super passionate about helping companies build happy and rewarding workplace cultures where employees can thrive. I organize our Bucketlist webinar community program, and I'm just super excited to dive into this topic of employee engagement and human connections with all of you today. This topic is super near and dear to my heart, and I'm really looking forward to hearing from all of you on this topic as well. And for those of you who are joining us for the first time today, a bit of context: Bucketlist Rewards is the #1 employee rewards and recognition platform. And our mission with these webinar events is just to bring the latest thought leadership to our community and provide a space for culture leaders to ask questions, share thoughts and experiences with each other. And a little bit about me outside of work: I enjoy paddleboarding, hiking, reading, and enjoying the food scene here in Vancouver. And an upcoming item on my bucket list is to attend a Renaissance fair. And next, I'm really pumped to welcome Aaron Johnson to the stage here. He's our speaker for today. By day, Aaron is a culture advocate at Bucketlist Rewards with 12 years in marketing and advertising, which is a really cool combo. He's also a really strong advocate for employee rewards and recognition and loves to build work cultures around fun and being yourself. And by night, Aaron is a dad bod, father of 3. He really loves playing sports, especially hockey. So if there's any hockey fans out there, I'm sure Aaron will be happy to chat about that with you. And just recently, he's actually started his own draft style ice hockey league. And when Aaron's not playing hockey or spending time with his family, you can likely find him playing darts or playing board games from his vast collection of over 130, as you can see from behind him. And Aaron, what's an item on your bucket list?
Well, first, I want to quickly touch on this whole hockey thing here. I think the hockey season is done now because the Toronto Maple Leafs are out. So I see some fans of some teams that are still going. So good luck to you guys. I think if I'm going to cheer for a team, I have to cheer for the team now that has beaten the Leafs out. So go Panthers. On my bucket list, I don't know, maybe the Toronto Maple Leafs winning the Stanley Cup and me being there. So I know I'll probably never see that in my time. Kane's got a good chance too. But I would love to visit Rome. Like, I just have a big fascination around the Colosseum and just the history there. So would certainly love to attend Rome and visit the Colosseum.
That's an amazing bucket list item. I'm super excited for when that day comes for you to head to Rome.
Thanks. Yeah, me too.
Awesome. Well, flipping to the next question, in the spirit of building human connections, let's kick things off with an icebreaker. So you've just heard all of me and Aaron share our passions and hobbies. We'd love to learn more about you and hear about what some of your hobbies are. So what's something you would happily do or talk about for hours?
Star Wars, nice. Yeah, we just had May the 4th, so I'm sure that was a well celebrated there for Mary.
Card making. Oh, that's lovely. It's a really great hobby for Christmas, birthdays, hiking national parks, walking on the beach, health and nutrition, cute dogs.
Hey, Disneyland, I saw that on there too. That's something on my bucket list too. I'd love to take the kids there for some duration there and experience that.
The happiest place on earth.
That's what they say.
Yeah, I gotta get the drumsticks and the churros.
Oh yeah, is that your recommendation?
That's what I hear from people. I haven't gone in recent years.
There's we got a whole wide of activities here and things that individuals would be happy to talk about.
I love it.
Rock climbing. Like, when I see rock climbing and I'm thinking of those individuals that are free climbing, like there's documentaries out there about those free climbers. I don't even know how you climb up 5 feet without having a harness or some sort of, I don't know about rock climbing for me, but that's an interesting one.
Well, I'm sure Audrey and Rhodes or Rollin here can tell you a bit more about the free climbing.
Yeah.
Well, as people continue to share, we love to see these, but we'll flip to the agenda slide here and just quickly go over what we're going to go over today. So we've structured this into 4 parts today. The first part, we thought we'd go over some industry trends and talk about the importance behind building human connections. And then we'll go into a framework around how to build a successful culture of connection. We'll go into part 3 strategies, and we'll be sharing 4 today around fostering employee engagement to get those human connections going. And lastly, just to wrap everything up, we'll give out the professional development credits, the key takeaways, and then hop into Q&A. And then just one last quick slide before we get started, I promise. A couple of really quick housekeeping items. So for the chat box feature, the only thing I want to point out is that if it's something that you want everyone to see, just to make sure that your blue drop-down thing is set to everyone and not just host and panelists, because otherwise only Aaron and I can see that. For the Q&A, if you are having a question you would like answered at the end, feel free to pop it into the Q&A button instead, so we don't lose it in this awesome chat discussion we're having. For the poll questions, we have a bunch of really fun topical questions today, and they're all anonymous, and so we'd just love to hear what you think. And lastly, with the professional development credits and the session recording, those will be sent out over email after the event. So you can watch out for those in your inbox.
Yeah, good point on the host and commenting everyone, because I see now that I'm actually looking at it, some individuals have only sent us comments to us, and but yeah, change that over so that you can communicate with everyone here in the chat.
Awesome. So part 1, what's the ROI behind building human connections? And we thought that a fun way to start this off would be with a group discussion. So in your experience, why is building human connections so important in an organization? Drop in the chat. And to kick things off, Aaron, as people are typing away, what's something that, why do you feel it's so important?
Yeah, so for me, it's, it helps people feel more comfortable, safe, and welcome in an organization. I want to celebrate life milestones with individuals, and I'll just share a short story that just happened yesterday, actually. I had the opportunity to welcome one of our longest tenured employees here at Bucketlist Canada, who just recently relocated from Pakistan. So I was part of a small group there who treated him to lunch, and we just talked about things like life and cultural differences, and it was just a really cool experience to have the opportunity to be one of the individuals here at Bucketlist to welcome him to the company and certainly to Canada.
Amazing. Love that. Thanks for sharing, Aaron. So in
Yeah.
the chat here, we see people talking about bursting silos, helping people feel connected, retention, creating a great environment, humanizing a business. These are such great points. And I personally feel that sometimes when we talk about these great feelings, it's hard to kind of quantify it and put it into numbers. And so I did find one stat today I wanted to share. So I found the stat that said 94% of employees agree that they're more productive when they feel connected to colleagues. So it's nice to sometimes be able to put things into numbers. But I too agree with everyone in the chat. I find human connections just so energizing. It makes me feel so good in the day and makes my mind just feel more awake.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I love it as well. And, for everyone here, believe it or not, there is a return on investment when individuals are fortifying those connections within. And we'll expand on that a little bit later as we move along. But love the engagement so far and the participation in the chat here, guys. Keep it up because, it really shows that you're participating here with us today, and love it.
Amazing. And Krista, for the stat, I've forgot to copy down where I found it. So I will send that to you after the session when I find it.
Good takeaway there.
Yes. All right, passing it back to you, Aaron.
Awesome. Well, there's lots of great benefits to building human connections within the organization. Improve productivity, increased retention, and also reduce burnout and improve mental health. These 3 things are huge issues that culture leaders are battling right now. And it's no wonder that the topic of building human connections has been a popular one. Example, we'll take a little deeper dive into improved productivity. Microsoft, for example, has a buddy system, and they found with their new hires, when they have buddies, they're 8 more times likely in their first 90 days on the job. 97% said that their buddy helped them become more productive quickly. So imagine if you could get a 2% productivity lift from each individual within your organization. as a result of improved human connections. What kind of positive financial implications would this have for your organization? The other one here that I'll quickly highlight is increased retention. 62% of employees with 1 to 5 work friends said that they would reject a job offer. That increases to 70% for those with 6 to 25 friends at work. So when you love working with your bestie, why would you leave them, right? And for everyone here today, you guys have work besties? Like, do you have individuals that you connect with a little bit more closely? And maybe you're carpooling together as an example, and you just love that moment together. I see some oh yes coming in. Oh no, there's okay. We're getting a kind of a mix here. Yes, some bold yeses. It's hard to have an HR bestie. Well, you can always reach out to us. We can be your besties too. You can extend that outside the organization. We're all here for you. Nice. All right. Well, I guess we'll move along here. Becca, we have a poll.
Let me just launch that for y'all.
There we go.
If it's not popping up for you, please let me know in the chat.
Yeah, and as we put these polls up here as well, it helps us in future webinars. It also helps us get an understanding of what's going on as well. Yeah, and I hope you all like the Jeopardy music in the background too.
Awesome. We'll let this run for another 10 seconds. But so far, Aaron, I'm not sure if you can see the results because I'm the one who launched it, but time constraint seems to be at the very top. Then distributed workforce, but that's getting edged out by organizational structure. So that's interesting. All right, I'll end the poll and I'll share results with everyone so we can all take a look. And poll, share results. Perfect. Can you see that, Aaron?
I can, yeah. Is this surprising to anyone, or it's kind of looks very spread out?
Yeah, time constraints. I feel like with me personally, there's been a lot of like an increase in meetings over the last couple of years, and so definitely some time constraints there. And I know on the next slide we want to highlight distributed workforces, so we don't have to go too in depth there. But yeah, if anybody in the chat wanted to share a little bit more insight into their answers. Let's see.
Yeah, remote work.
Perfect. Well, in that case, that's a great segue into our next slide, actually.
I just was laughing at one of the comments there. I'll take HR for 500, please. Love it.
That would be fun.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I just want to give a bit of context around the slide, Aaron. If you give a click, I wanted to highlight a question that came in prior to webinar, just because I know a lot of you submitted questions beforehand. So this one was super specific. It asked, are there any suggestions for fostering connections in an organization that runs 24/7? How can we bridge connection with people who are working kind of opposite shifts to us? And this one's very specific, but we actually got a lot of similar questions in that vein, revolving around building connections in a workplace where people are distributed, remote, hybrid, different countries, different cities, different locations, or like different shifts. And so we thought it'd be interesting in the section to like specifically highlight some challenges around building connections in a distributed workforce. And so we thought we'd share a couple of client stories just to highlight this phenomenon that we've been seeing. So the first story, there's a really well-known restaurant chain with lots of different locations. And so they were seeing this issue that because there's so many different locations, it was feeling a little bit siloed between them. And then on top of that, they also had traveling trainers who are part of the team, but they don't have a home location. So that also kind of adds to the disconnect there. And then on top of that, there's a bunch of different managers who oversees different sites and they work at different stores. And so there's just all of these challenges when it came to building human connections and that silo and isolation that a lot of you were talking about in the chat. And so then they ended up implementing a recognition program, and they've been doing a really great job. And now I believe their rates at one recognition going out every 3 minutes, which is really awesome to see. And they're also sharing a lot of photos, and that visual just really helps people stay connected as well. And the second example I want to share was a pharmaceutical company. And this example touches on this idea of the 24/7. Just because for this particular company, they had team members located in both India and US. So that's like two different time zones on the opposite side of the world. And so they were able to kind of utilize like a recognition initiative, just to kind of promote that inclusivity, break those silos, and help people build connections that span over geographical distance, through time zones, and just different locations. And so that's also been really cool to see. Aaron, is there anything you want to add to this?
No, I think you summarized it great. And, I love the idea of, well, one of the challenges that we hear a lot is breaking down silos, or how do you get different locations or individuals in different time zones collaborating. I thought these were two great examples here from customers that we have.
Amazing. And I'm just looking at Abina's comment here about with remote work. Totally.
Yeah,
Mhm.
lots of good comments here too. And for everyone as well, if there are follow-ups or takeaways from the comments that you share with us, we'll use that as a follow-up with everyone here.
Mhm.
So we're going to talk about part 2 here, which is the framework, how to build a successful culture of connection. And as we move along, we'd love to hear any thoughts. If you have any discussion, join in on it. Perhaps you've seen some examples that worked well in your own experience, or some stories. So, continue to use the chat here and share away with us, because there might be someone else in the chat here where it might resonate with them, and you might even help someone else learn, or give them some sort of an idea to work with. So strategy number 1, build spaces and opportunities for people to have meaningful conversations and make meaningful memories together, which is going to take us to our next poll. And we'll skip the Jeopardy music for this one. And before we get into it, though, let's talk a bit about how connection building currently looks in your organization. So do you feel that there are lots of good opportunities to build relationships with people? I mean, is it easy to do, or do people tend to feel isolated? We're getting a nice mix here again. It's just all over the map from what I'm seeing. Yeah. Well.
Mhm.
Yeah, and also too, if anyone wants to expand on their reasoning here or their response, feel free to drop it in the chat. Anything surprising here standing out for you, Becca?
It's interesting to see that made a really few strong connections at work is like edging out the other ones quite a bit, but it also seems to be in line with the comments that people were sharing earlier.
Yeah, true.
Mhm.
That's nice that some, good amount of individuals here are finding it easy to build relationships, which is great. If you're one of the individuals who selected that, maybe drop in the chat some of the things you're doing to make it easy. Maybe there's something that we're missing that we could share in our next webinar. We can learn from you guys as well.
Amazing. Cool. And I've just shared the results, so everyone can kind of take a look here and see what they think.
Awesome. So for relationships to foster, it's important for an organization to provide spaces where people can make those connections. Here are 3 examples of areas where relationships can be built in an organization: communication channels, team events, and various business processes, right? Of course, there are many other areas. If you have any others that you want to highlight in the chat, again, this is a common theme here because we love participation. So drop it in the chat there as well. But I'm going to highlight communication channels, and I'll call out Slack and Microsoft Teams as 2 main ones. Are you using those? Video calling platforms, Zoom, Google Meets, Teams again. On our communication platform, we may even have specific social groups. So within those chat groups, you can create channels, centered around pets or cooking or certain hobbies like board games or sports. Team events, since there's lots of different work models now, you need to be sure that these events are easily accessible and inclusive for everyone to join. You don't want people to feel left out, that the event is more catered to certain folks. Variety is also really good, since there are many different preferences and interests. it's easier to have people engage and interact if they're enjoying themselves. And then process integration, lots of areas in business structure to intentionally build space for people to connect. Example, coffee stations, right? And if anyone here is looking to connect with someone in that industry, I have some connections there. I can hook you up. Connect with me on LinkedIn and I can help direct you in the right direction there. Also, dedicate some meeting time for non-shop talk. Ask about the weekend or this week's plans, or hey, did you watch anything new on Netflix? Take turns suggesting a fun icebreaker question. It may also come in the form of a company-wide rewards and recognition program. And one last note on the slide, I know that it's really easy to think meetings or more face-to-face time when we think about building relationships. But I think the key is to make the time that we already have together really count and make connection building into a habit and part of the company culture. So the key, consistency and frequency. And there'll be some examples as we move along in the next few slides. In a world where we need to build relations across distance and departments and time zones, employees need to feel many different opportunities and in many different formats. And you can see how we handled the Christmas here at Bucketlist as a distributed team, our Christmas celebrations in various hubs and online options, many occurrences for people to choose from. It's consistent because people has a way to tune in no matter where they're based, no restrictions on how many you can attend or anything like that. And next week, actually, we have something very exciting here at Bucketlist. We're having a company-wide retreat, and during the retreat, we also were provided choices of experiences to choose from as a team. So it was a great way to have options to choose from so that everyone had an option and a way to participate. And I just want to call out as well, it is so important for leaders to lead by example, and we'll get into this a little bit later, but we have our CEO here as well in attendance, and we always love seeing leaders actively participating with their teams. So when you build spaces for relationship building, no matter how great they are, getting people to make use of them requires consistent and frequent promotional communication. In marketing, for example, there's a baseline that people need to hear a message at least 7 times before it sticks. Similarly, in our Bucketlist platform, we have email notifications and the ability to integrate with Slack, mobile push notifications to constantly remind people of this great community that they should take part in. Built-in email notifications and other communication channel integrations to keep top of mind. And there's also an ability to create events within the Bucketlist platform to further remind folks of company-driven initiatives. So role modeling. Remember that kid-friendly saying, monkey see, monkey do. It definitely still applies to us as adults. When building spaces where we want to encourage the building of relationships, it's important that the desired behavior is consistently and frequently role modeled. People need to see the leaders use the space as well as their peers. They also need to see the great results that are coming from it. Example, a new communication channel in Slack dedicated to talking about achieving personal bucket list items, great. The more people that see peers participating and sharing, the more likely more people to join in. No one wants to be the only one talking in a Slack channel alone, and certainly not the only one attending an event. I want to give a recognition program example of how all these pieces consist of consistency and frequency can come together to help people in the space they need to build meaningful relationships. So in the Bucketlist platform, anyone can give recognition to anyone. There are no limits. Once recognitions start pouring in, employees are able to see leaders give recognition to their team. So regardless of the department, everyone can see everyone else giving peer-to-peer. And it's a really good way to create those relationships. So step number 2 here in this framework, normalizing personal conversations, encourage conversations around personal dreams and experiences. So yeah, go ahead and share in the chat if you think it's strange to talk about yourself at work. Do you like sharing your personal dreams and experiences with your colleagues? I know, like, I'm an open book here. I share everything. I share what's going on with my kids in our Slack channels. And, for me, I just love interacting with individuals. So I see some individuals here saying they love to share. Yeah, it's essential.
It's so interesting to see that everyone has such different preferences and different comfort levels. Like some people want to share in a small group, some wants to do one-on-one, some wants to share right away, some people want to wait a bit. So it's just yeah, it's always nice to see that there's such a diverse range, and the way you like to communicate is just totally fine.
Yeah, great. Awesome. So let's continue with a group discussion here. It can be a strange feeling, but it's actually really easy. As an example, as you're all sharing in the group here in the chat, I shared with you earlier that for me, visiting Rome and touring the Colosseum would be something that would excite me or something that I would share with someone. But how about yourself, Becca?
I know I shared earlier that my upcoming bucket list item is to head to the Renaissance Fair. Another one is to travel to Thailand. I really want to check out the food scene there. I hear the markets are also super fun. And I just wanted to point out too that in the chat, people are sharing that tips on not oversharing and all that. I think I agree. There's a really fine line. You're still at work. There still needs to be professional boundaries. You never want to make anybody uncomfortable or anything with whatever you're sharing. And so I feel like a question around bucket list items, personal goals, and milestones are almost like a safe topic where I guess the trip to Rome, that's totally fun to talk about, but probably would not step on any toes.
Yeah, well, the other thing too, like even simply just having a conversation around the weather is the easiest way to start. And then someone's like, "Oh, the weather's nice. Oh, what are you planning on doing in the nice weather?" And like, weather is just, I think, the universal way to open up a conversation with your peers. It does help people connect in different ways. Finding commonalities that you didn't know existed before. And I'll share an example. So internally, when I shared that Rome is on my bucket list with a peer at Bucketlist here, in doing so, I met someone else within the company who's actually visited Rome, and they shared some great advice on like things to do and do not. And then the conversation evolved. We went on to discuss a little bit of history, which led to movies, and then it just became the snowball effect of like, hey, we are talking about a lot of things, and it all started with just I want to go to Rome. So it's funny how that works, eh?
Love that.
Yeah, me too.
Awesome. Well, just keep an eye on time here, Aaron, and we'll just
Yeah.
blast these next couple slides a little bit quick.
Well, there's so much to talk about.
You
So
know.
why is it powerful to connect over who we are outside of work? Sharing and storytelling spark curiosity and compassion and have been shown to foster belonging. So connections make it easier and safer to ask for support. When we're invested in each other's personal growth, we build friendships, and if you're fortunate, maybe some lifelong ones. There's only a 1% chance you'll report being fulfilled in life if you lack meaningful relationships at work. I'm not sure if you've noticed or not, but purposely have two potential connection points in plain sight right behind me here. I have an arcade basketball net, some board games here, and in a virtual world, this is a great way to help make connections a little bit easier. So the key to normalizing personal dreams and passions is to embed it into existing company infrastructure, and we'll go over four: leadership, core values, recognition, and awards. So, how can we get the ball rolling on personal conversations about our dreams and passions? Leaders need to set the tone, both in a casual and more structured conversations. Make it a normal thing to have these conversations. Start interactions with non-shop talk and make an effort to show interest in an employee's personal life. Remember what people share and be excited for your employees when they tick things off their bucket lists. And the language you use does matter. One of my favorite quotes is it's not what you say, but how you say it. So remember, language does matter. Core values are another area where we can really normalize talking about dreams and passions. Here's an example of an employee who cares deeply about their employee as a whole and have incorporated that mentality into their core values, culture and company's perspective. Two values that they highlight in their culture: support your passions, which you can see here, and fulfill your dreams. So by having it as core values, it shows people that it's normal and encouraged to talk about your dreams and passions. Recognition is another area where you can normalize conversations around dreams and passions. You can celebrate key milestones and personal achievements together. On the left are some awards of our clients that they give out to recognize personal milestones like new family members, weddings, graduation. People have special days that are important to them personally. Example, birthdays. It's helpful to automate reminders of birthdays so we don't forget and help people feel extra appreciated on their special day. And yeah, Becca, how about yourself here? I see that there's individuals giving you a happy birthday announcement here.
Yeah, I just threw this in as an example just to highlight that. For me personally, I love my birthday. I celebrate it sometimes 3 times in that 1 month just because I like it so much. And so it meant a lot to me that my team members on my birthday, they were messaging me privately. And Katie here, she wrote me a birthday song and virtually serenaded me. And I just thought that was the sweetest thing ever. And so it just felt really good to build those human connections on a special day like my birthday.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, birthdays are fun. I think people should have the day off on their birthday personally, but that's my personal choice there. Lastly, rewards are an awesome way to normalize conversations around dreams and passions. Through rewards, you can structure them to help make an employee's dreams come true. For example, in our platform, you can accumulate bucket list recognition points and save them up to redeem for items on your own bucket list. We have a couple photos up here as well. You can see on the left, Jennifer used her points on her trip to Tokyo to go see I gotta make sure I don't butcher this, Sakura blooming at the Shinjuku Garden. I'm not sure if I'm saying that correct, but I'm doing my best there. And then we have in the middle here, Shirley used her points on a trip to Hawaii and redeemed for a day at the Kulua Ranch. Is that right, Becca? Is that how you would say that?
I think so.
Well, this is where Jurassic Park was filmed, right? So you just picture a bunch of dinosaurs in the back, and that's where she wanted to be. But we also have a real bucket list example. You can see on the right here. So internally at Bucket List, we receive a $500 bucket list benefits that we can use towards an experience. And this helped provide an opportunity for Marlisa. And for her, she wanted to release turtles, right? That was something on her bucket list, which was something she's always wanted to do. And fun fact, it actually turned into an engagement. So her bucket list dream turned into an engagement. And of course, every organization has a different budget, but there are ways to make meaningful awards happen on a smaller scale. So we have some low budget, no budget resources for ideas on meaningful employee rewards. If you'd like a copy of this, just drop a yes in the chat here and we'll send it here as a follow-up to all. We'll give that a moment here, but I'll continue on so that we still have a lot more to go through here. We've jam-packed this for you all. Becca's keeping me honest on time, right, Becca?
Yeah, exactly. You're doing great.
Well, you're doing great. I'm giving you recognition after this, Becca. That brings us to our third step of the framework, strive towards a culture of recognition. I still see a bunch of yeses coming in. At least no one's saying no. I imagine if they say no, they're just not saying no, but totally appreciate the yeses here. The act of recognition is powerful in building connections because you can see the impact that your actions are having on someone else. A variety of emotions can be involved: vulnerability, gratitude, pride, happiness, so on. But I'd like to take a moment to ask you all here. So again, I'm going to ask you all a question. How does recognition make you feel? So when someone recognizes you in a positive manner, how does it make you feel? Go ahead and share it in the chat. I like it. Yeah, feels great. Makes you feel valued, appreciated, really good. No one's saying it makes me feel bad.
It is important too to recognize that sometimes people do feel embarrassed, like Gigi's mentioning.
Yes.
And I think that really ties to another comment that I think Gina made previously about birthdays, how some people might not like having that called out in front of everyone. And so definitely we do notice too that there's lots of preferences when it also comes to recognition. Like maybe someone doesn't want it to be public, but would like it to be one-on-one or kind of more low-key, a quick Slack message or something. And so definitely another facet to this is understanding people's preferences and just respecting those boundaries.
Yeah, and I think it kind of evolves from making areas or places within the organization where you can foster those connections so that you can learn those things about people. right? And I see a lot of people here saying, they enjoy it. And I also feel it, as much as I enjoy receiving recognition, I enjoy it much more giving it. So recognition is a habit, and it is done meaningfully, timely, specific, frequent, and transparently. Recognition isn't limited to KPIs and work output. The whole person is considered. Example, I once gave a recognition to a peer who was going for a walk for 5 consecutive days, because in one of our previous conversations, he mentioned to me that it was something that he was just hoping to accomplish for the week. He just said, Aaron, I want to go for a walk, each day this week. And then when he fulfilled that after the week, I gave him recognition. And lastly, when recognitions are tied to core values, it helps people see their actions align with the company's mission. And more to come on that later. But let's get back to the polls here. So does your workplace live a culture of recognition mindset? So let's see how this is going to go. And there's no wrong answer, by the way. That's why you're here. Hopefully you pick up a tip or two, and we have some tools that can help you. I love seeing the yeses, but also the nos in the same way, because that's an opportunity. At least you're recognizing it.
Mm-hmm. And I really like Abina's comment too about how considering the whole person is really important. And I agree. I just really like that concept as well. It's so important because we're all such holistic people, and there's more to us than just like our jobs. And so it's really good for us to all be considerate of that as well.
100%. Awesome. Hey, we have some good participation here in the polls in the chat. We might be setting a record here with this group.
Definitely. Here, I'll end the poll and we can share the results.
Awesome.
Take a look-sees.
Yeah, and as we share the results, does it surprise anyone?
I think the I often see kudos one is coming up ahead, and then the yes, absolutely lots going around is also the really close second place. That's awesome to see.
Yeah. And I mean, when you have the ability to run reports on recognition, it gives, leadership and managers visibility on all the great things that are happening.
And I see Joanne make a comment about cookie cutter recognition, and I would love to hear an example of what you mean by a cookie cutter recognition. And I'll let you type that. No rush. We can come back to it.
Nice. Yeah, this is why the chat's great, because we get to have this side conversation and kind of evolve here. For the sake of time, though, I will continue on here.
Yes, let's do that.
So having a fun and accessible way as a key, not only building a culture of recognition, but building human relationships as well. Here are some examples of things companies have done. Have fun at work. Let's take the concept of play at work. A study by Brigham Young University found that when people played a collaborative game together for 45 minutes, their productivity increased by 20%. So again, what are some of your favorite ways to have fun at work? How does it help foster relationship building? And of course, yes, as culture leaders, you all know implementing something like a culture of recognition successfully means that it needs to be easy for people to participate and reap the benefits. Some examples of making things easy, we'll share some high level ideas and give examples of what that could look like, using the Bucketlist Rewards platform, for example. Making things intuitive and user friendly. We've intentionally lowered the learning curve and made the usage similar to other social media platforms. So it's important for it to be easy and so that it looks familiar to individuals. And point number 2 here, take advantage of the visuals, use GIFs, use images, colors, and emojis to add some element of fun to work. Big advocate for fun here. Prizes and rewards. Rewards are fun too. It can offer a wide range of options depending on the budget. Examples of lower cost options that we've seen companies offer. Pie in your boss's face for charity is one that I've seen. Preferred parking. If you have a long ways to go, maybe you have a big facility, so some individuals might want to park closer. My personal favorite, though, and I often share this, is CEO calls your mom. Having a senior leader call a family member can be very rewarding and make a huge impact on someone. Fairness and standardization. Keep things fair and standardized, right? No favoritism, and everything is super transparent when you have a really good program. And also eliminate the manual work. easy for admins to do and operate, no manual work or spreadsheets required, automation for the win. So it's all about making it easy. So just to end off this framework with a quote, the key to building a successful culture of recognition is making it fun and easy for people to participate. Having fun at work is also important for feeling engaged, being more creative and feeling like there's a purpose to what we do at work. In fact, 81% of employees at companies ranked as great found their work environment fun. So maybe that's the secret sauce there. So there's definitely a correlation between being a great place to work and a fun place to work. Awesome. So over the next few slides, I'll be sharing with you 4 practical strategies and tactics for engaging or for fostering an engagement. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, before you dive into this, I just really want to note that we had a ton of questions come in prior to the session around fostering human connections when the majority of the workplace is hybrid or remote. So hopefully these engagement tips can help spark some inspo there.
Awesome. Yeah. And I'm sure we're going to have a lot to follow up too, based on this chat that I'm seeing here, which is awesome. So incentivize the desired behaviors, role modeling participation from the top down, tie initiatives to company core values, and celebrate the achievements and personal wellness goals that individuals have, and utilize the power of peer-to-peer recognition here. Strategy number 1, incentivize the desired behavior. So before we get rolling, I'm curious what you all think are ways that you can incentivize people for building connections and reaching out to each other. Again, as I continue to talk, feel free to engage with each other in the chat and share stories. Beck and I do like to monitor it as we're going through this. Incentives are powerful in getting people to engage with the workplace programs. I mean, incentives are all around us, in and out of the workplace. So incentives work. For example, you're all here for many different reasons, but one of the incentives to join this session today is to earn a credit. So why not offer an incentive when it comes to building relationships? And it doesn't have to be anything fancy or expensive. It can come in the form of recognition. 92% of employees are likely to repeat a specific action if given recognition for it. So create the behaviors that you want. And if you do decide to offer some sort of a reward or incentive, reward incentives can increase participation by 20 to 40%. So positive reinforcement for building relationships can help encourage engagement. Recognizing certain behaviors and then rewarding them will shine a light on how people are expected to behave. So how can you incentivize people to make friends? Create a custom and formalize awards and recognize specific actions or outcomes. Pick things that help people foster connections. Awards, which are also an incentive, monetary or not, are a way to create behaviors you're looking for. Also find ways to recognize more people as opposed to just the top achievers all the time. Recognizing participation is good, right? For example, the car share scheme award. This description they have is thank you for enabling others to get to work. It's a carpooling award. Carpooling is such a great way to encourage people to bond. Not that I'm great at karaoke, but it is a good way for 2 individuals just to blast out some notes on your morning commute. Happy birthday award, super easy opportunity to connect via birthdays, wishes, gifts, emojis. I love Halloween, so I love seeing Halloween costume contests, and you can create an award around that. Example of an event where they want people to attend and participate in. So if you want participation, create an award around it. So don't be afraid to be creative around it, and get creative on how you can recognize behaviors that you're hoping to drive.
I just wanted to add to you, Aaron, that these were examples I pulled from some of our clients because some of them are super creative when it comes to this. And I'm just always constantly amazed at what people come up to help build those human connections in their organization.
Yeah, we see lots of great examples all the time. And if anyone wants to brainstorm around ideas after the session, again, don't hesitate to reach out. Love brainstorming on this type of stuff. So strategy number 2, role modeling the importance of building human connections. A question came in, what steps can new leaders of a work group take to create meaningful connections? So hopefully these ideas can help here. If you're one if you're on social media of any kind, most of the time I see this on LinkedIn, you've probably seen this graphic here, right? If you've read the comments, when people share that graphic, you can see what people expect from their leaders. So what is a leader? A true leader is someone who inspires others to take action and encourages them to strive for excellence. Leaders need to lead by example. So again, I'm curious here for everyone on this call, do leaders currently make it clear that building relationships is important in your organization? Feel free to engage with the chat and share. And when leaders participate, it also provides really good opportunities for general staff to humanize and engage with their leaders. Leaders need to be seen participating in building relationships. Employees with highly engaged leaders are 39% more likely to be engaged. And when leaders are involved, it sets the tone for the importance of building connections and encourages others to do so as well. And I just shared with you on a previous slide there, you saw our CEO, he was out there attending a social event with our team. And yeah, I see some comments coming in here as well. Work related. Yeah. Nice. Okay. So there are two ways I'd like to highlight as ways for leaders to actively role model the importance of building human connections. As I've already shared, but I'll double down on this again. One way leaders can help role model desired behaviors and get people to engage in relationship building is, well, taking the time to open meetings with some small water cooler talk, make time for water cooler talk. An example is maybe join a few minutes early to a meeting if you have the time and just not jumping straight into the talk shop. When leaders do this, everyone starts to build habits to also do this as well. Taking part in connection building initiatives within your organization, like donuts or visibly attending team events, right? It's important to participate. And taking part in the habit of recognition, giving shout outs to other team members. I have a fun example here as well, just back to the idea of rewards and incentives. What we've seen work really well within our platform is when leaders are okay to have fun and be part of the reward themselves. Here's two examples we've seen within our platform again. Team members can redeem for a reward like push your supervisor into the pool, and this came from a water park. This is a great memory that a team member can cherish together for years. Another webinar, in another one, we saw someone share that one of their favorite activities was shrink wrap your manager. They're a furniture moving company. So we've had conversations with a whole bunch of different companies, but these are two that we thought would be fun to share.
And Kim has a similar example in the chat as well, where they did a wrap their manager in toilet paper, not shrink wrap, toilet paper. So that one's also really fun.
Yeah, that would be fun. Maybe we should do that. We should do that next week then. We're going to toilet paper wrap Jason.
Totally.
So strategy number 3, tie initiatives to company core values. Core values help people understand what's important to the company. Okay. I always ask this question, and it's one of my favorite questions to ask HR leaders or just anyone in an organization. So I'm going to ask you all a really tough question right now, and I just want you to be honest with your answers. Do each of you know your own company core values from memory? And it's okay if you don't, but I'm curious to know if you actually know your company's core values.
It's a mix.
Yeah, I would say like when I ask that question, about 80% of the time, individuals can't recite, all of them verbatim.
Vanessa says burned into me. I love that.
Yeah, I when I've asked that question before, I've seen people like, hold on a second, they pause and run out of the room and they go read the core values on the wall. They come back and then they're like, oh, I forgot the last one. They run back out again. So when it comes to core values, you want your employees to be aligned and also reflect them. They're another way to reinforce, the desired behaviors you're trying to initiate, right? So in your next initiative, try this. Try tying core values into it, as it can show how it fits into the culture of your organization. And within our Bucketlist platform, everyone can see and tag core values with each recognition. One of our core values here at Bucketlist is care for customers and each other. And for the sake of this webinar, I actually just did a dive into what that number looked like. And I'm happy to share that 59% of all our recognitions are tied to this core value of caring for each other and customers. So if you tie the importance of human connections to core values, it'll help see why it's important. So how do you tie the importance of building connections with your existing core values? Well, here's some examples. I just shared with you at Bucketlist, we have care for customers and each other. So it encourages taking the time to build meaningful relationships with each other and our customers. Dea, embracing family, nurturing collaboration. Through these values, they celebrate diversity and care for one another, promoting vulnerability, compassion, and mutual trust. Storable, feel a sense of belonging. They believe it's easier to be yourself and do your best when you feel comfortable and empowered by those that you're surrounded with. And then Book Depot, bring joy, building imagination, sharing knowledge and education, empowering the vulnerable within our own community. Ties well with making human connections. Yeah, Beck, how about yourself here?
Yeah, I just wanted to add that these were some examples we found from our clients, and we just want to include a mix of ones where it's like obvious that it was around human connections, and then other ones where it had themes, like the Book Depot one, where it had themes, but human connections can still tie in super well with them. So you don't have to go change your existing core values. You can just kind of add the idea of human connections into one of your existing ones.
Cool. And I'm going to try and move a little bit quicker here too. I still have some more to get through. I'm a little bit behind here on time, so I'm going to do my best so that we can wrap up. For strategy number 4, utilizing the power of peer-to-peer recognition. Workplace cultures where peer-to-peer interaction is habitual will result in engagement with each other. So from our data, we see that there's a much higher level of engagement when peer-to-peer activity is encouraged. 68% versus 11%, which is crazy. So how do you encourage people to engage with each other? Give them something interesting to talk about. Similar to the icebreaker question we had earlier, we can learn a lot about from people's hobbies and interests. It helps increase bonds between people that they may not have discovered otherwise. It increases frequency of people recognizing each other, and it creates a culture where everyone feels more comfortable sharing personal goals and progresses. Perhaps you'll learn that Sam has an upcoming marathon, or Paige has about to purchase her first home. We can all celebrate wins together. So what can sharing and celebrating our personal wins look like? I have some examples here, and at Bucketlist, it's a feature within our platform. You can easily do this also through Slack and other methods. Give people the space to share and celebrate together. Let them share what they want to share. So a question for everyone here again, I know I ask you guys a lot of questions, but do you currently share personal milestones in the organization now? So if you want to go ahead and participate, feel free to do so. You can see here on the left, one of the individuals in our organization here named Maddie, one of her dreams was getting a puppy. And look at this. I don't think this puppy is small anymore, though. I think I've seen some other photos. I think it's a big puppy now. And we've already talked about Marlisa's milestone here. She had an experience that turned into a proposal from her fiance. And Becca, I think we have something here from you.
Yes, I'm just super invested in this idea of when you're talking about ways to broaden the criteria for participation so that more people can participate and feel that they have something of value to contribute. And so we tend to gravitate a lot, I think, towards these large traditional milestones like the new family member, the engagements. They're all very common things for people to celebrate together. But I think there are lots of different categories for dreams and bucket list items that people tend to have, and those all deserve to be celebrated too. I actually recently came across something called the 10 categories of life. And so they identified 10 categories that life tends to be split up into. And we often do have goals that fall under each of these. So like financial goals, travel and adventure goals, health goals, creativity, intellectual goals, all of those. And so Erin, if you don't mind clicking here to share an example that I've wanted to include. So I've always wanted to milk a cow. That was on my bucket list. And so I've categorized that as an adventure for myself. And so when I did that, I shared it with my team. I posted it in Slack, as you can kind of see here. And I just really appreciate the fact that my team members like took the time to celebrate this milestone with me and just kind of appreciate all the gifs and all the congratulations and everything that they sent. And it was a really great way for me to build some connections, and people, they felt that they learned a lot about me. They're like, oh, I never knew you wanted to do that. So that was an interesting experience for me as well.
That I thought it was really cool, and it kind of inspires me to think of some really unique items like that I can do as a bucket list item. And I love the little cow emojis there as well. Our team's always creative around emojis.
Yeah, super cute.
Awesome. So in summary, here are the 4 employee engagement strategies that we went over today. Incentivize the desired behaviors, role modeling participation from the top down, tie initiatives to company core values, and utilize the power of peer-to-peer recognition, which leads us to
Yes,
another poll.
I'll just launch this.
So we're always looking for ways to improve on our webinars, and we'd love to gather some feedback from you today. So I hope that everything that we've shared with you, and we still have a couple more slides here before we wrap up, but we hope that you've enjoyed everything we've shared. At least we hope that you have one takeaway. If you've got more, that's great. Maybe you really enjoyed the participation from the chat channel. I mean, we just hope that you loved it.
And a small ask too, if there were some topics that really resonated with you today, please drop in the chat. I'll take that back to our content team. Just want to make sure that we're always bringing new exciting content that just really resonates with you. And if there's a topic you'd like us to explore in the future, please also drop in the chat. Thank you so much in advance for that.
Yeah, I see in the comments here. I love that people are enjoying what we shared, and yeah, core values.
Awesome.
Awesome.
So we can share the professional credits over the next couple of slides here.
So at Bucketlist, rewards and recognition platforms are a great way to help building human connections in the workplace. And with that said, I mean, we're very passionate and would love to help you find solutions to lowering turnover, recognizing the amazing work, and bringing your staff together through an engaging rewards and recognition program. We've built some awesome programs with companies of all sizes and shapes, some really cool brands, which you can see here. So if you're interested in learning more, let us know. We'd love to chat with you. If you want to continue this conversation and learn more best practices, again, we'd love to chat with you. And this is one way to do it.
Perfect. I'll launch the poll in case anybody wants to learn more. Oh, I didn't end the last poll. Sorry, 1 second.
The polls, there's a lot of clicking going on. I don't know if any of you
going on.
Yeah, there's a lot of back end work here. We've got a lot of clicking, a lot of maneuvering. Even if we go back to the Jeopardy theme music, we've
Totally. And I just also want to add to that. I know that some of you might not be looking for rewards and recognition at the moment, but if you're curious on how you can make that active recognition more habitual in your organization for people, we'd also love to connect and just share any templates and resources that we might have. And I've just included this QR code here in case you want to book a time with us, and we'd be happy to chat. Always super excited to connect. Perfect. And next slide here. Yeah, so this is the professional development credit code. I'll also pop it into the chat now so you can just copy it directly. And if you don't catch it, no worries. It'll also be in the email going out later as well. Perfect.
And that pretty much wraps it up. I'm going to drop my LinkedIn profile in here as well, so that if you want to connect with me and continue the conversation in any way or brainstorm, or feel free to do that. We do have time, I think, for maybe a couple questions that came in, Becca.
Yeah, totally. And before everyone just hops off, I think Aaron and I will stay for a couple of extra minutes, but if anyone needs to hop off, just want to thank you all in advance for coming here today and spending your hour with us. We really enjoyed getting to know you, chatting with you in the chat, and we just really hope to see you at future events. Aaron, anything you want to add as well?
No, I mean, I think I've mentioned this before. We might have had the most active group that we've ever had. And, I totally appreciate the engagement from everyone here and participating and responding to the questions that we've thrown out there. And you can see, even sharing some of your own bucket list items and some of your own goals, it feels good to share it. And, we just love talking about this stuff. So just want to thank everyone for joining in today and spending an hour with us.
Perfect. So let's hop to the first Q&A question here then. Which one do you want to start with, Aaron? We can do two today.
Okay. All right. Two. We've got time for two. Well, how do you get people to want to participate at work activities? And how do you get people to read the newsletter and appreciate it? And this question comes up quite a bit, and we've talked about a little bit here in the session, but my favorite suggestion is to create a formal award around this behavior, tie it back into the core values, and recognize the individuals for participating in each work activity. And what this is going to allow you to do is you're going to be able to track it through reporting. And then over a period of time, you can create a quarterly award. So a quarterly active participation award, and hand it out to the individual who constantly participates and engages with activities within the organization.
Awesome. And I just love to turn this question back to the group here today as well. What are some tips or strategies you've used in the past to get people to want to participate at work activities? If there's anything you think of, feel free to pop it in the chat. I know it's a big question. Awesome. And Erin, for our next question, how would you promote inclusivity for all employees when implementing a peer-to-peer recognition program? My biggest concern is that I don't want anyone to feel left out.
Yeah, I mean, there's been a ton of great questions that have come in, but broadening the scope of what deserves to be recognized, or what is recognition is important. And maybe you have an answer for this one as well, Becca.
Totally. From a rewards and recognition standpoint, I guess I'll just say this example and then broaden it so it's more like a concept. So we found that people need a lot of options when it comes to inclusivity. For example, in our platform, you can give people points for when you recognize them. And so we found that some clients, they wanted to start the points at like really high. Of course, it's an option to type in whatever points you want to give, but sometimes people are starting at 50, and then people are feeling very overwhelmed with that amount. And then the organizations found that when they dropped it, so the starting point giving was 5, 10, 15, then people felt more inclined to participate because they felt that it was more doable with the amount of points they were kind of able to give out. And so I guess as a broader idea on this, people probably would like to see lots of different ways to participate in ways that they feel comfortable, because not everyone is able to do 100%.
And we're a little over time now, so I think what we'll do is we'll wrap it up here. But for everyone who kind of stayed here, again, thanks. We have a lot more questions that came in that we can get to as part of our follow-up. I believe, Becca, that there's also a blog or something that we post online where we'll have some of this.
Yeah, we started doing Q&A blog posts, so it's not too late to also submit me a couple of questions. I know, just reply to that email that went out. It goes directly to me. So if there's something you'd like answered after the fact, feel free to let us know.